and welcome to the Revolut Insider podcast, where we take a look at all things Revolut from the inside out. I'm your host, Alex Kirill, and joining me today is Head of Employer Branding, Svetlana Kochkina.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Svetlana.
You actually can call me Sveta.
Hi, Sveta. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
Sveta, we're here today to uncover what it takes to build an authentic employer brand so that people can better understand their future employer.
I will be happy to share my experience. Ask me any questions.
Okay, let's get into it then. For those who may not be familiar, how would you describe employer branding and why is it important for companies to have this department?
You know, if I try to describe employer branding to my 7-year-old son, I would say something like this. Imagine there is a cool kids club. And employer branding is about showing people why being part of this club is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about making people feel, wow, I'd love to be part of this club one day. To translate it into the more official language,
Okay.
I would say that employer branding is a company's message to external people, to candidates, potential candidates, what makes this company special. And there are two big goals. One goal is to attract potential candidates and to explain them all the benefits of working in the company. And the second goal, I would say it's even more important goal, to retain the existing employees.
Yeah, after putting in all that work to find top talent of people who want to join, we want them to stay.
Totally.
And what initially drew you to this field?
Well, it's an interesting story. According to my diploma, I'm a cinema and TV producer.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed my university years and I loved watching movies and producing movies a bit. But frankly speaking, what I loved most from the subjects that I had at university, first was marketing and second was human resources, because it's also essential for a producer to know about people and to know how to promote and sell things. I started my internship in PwC as a recruitment marketing intern. And in my job, I combined both things that I really liked. And also I had an opportunity to shoot movies, by the way. So it was a dream job. And then I started my career progression there at PwC, starting from an intern. Then I moved to a specialist and then to manager. And then we started to call it employer branding.
Ah, okay.
So I was leading local projects. Then I started to do the global projects. And after a few years, I found my way to Revolut.
Oh, and PwC is a reputable Big Four company. What made you decide to make the move and start at Revolut?
I would say new challenges because I really loved working at PwC. I learned a lot and I had a good base of knowledge and of practice in employer branding and in recruitment, in learning and development. But I was ready to embrace new challenges and I realized that Revolut was the perfect place for that.
How was it for you when you made that change?
It was scary.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the first 3 months of working at Revolut were super challenging. But from the first day, I felt I'm a part of projects that make difference. I already saw the results of my work after just 3 months of being an employer branding manager at Revolut. I was changing the way people think about Revolut. And I was able to show this cool club that people want to be part of.
Well, I mean, you asked for a challenge and you got it.
I got plenty of them.
And how did that early experience for you kind of influence your leadership approach to now being able to lead the employer branding team?
When I first started, there were only 2 people working at the employer branding team.
You and somebody else?
Yes.
Okay.
Now we are a team of 9 people covering all the employer branding initiatives for Revolut globally.
And I think this says a lot about the company too, because a couple of years ago, there were a lot fewer people working there. And I think you've been part of and witnessed the company's growth since you've been here. What are some challenges you've faced in scaling employer branding efforts?
When we work with a global audience, we really need to adapt carefully our values and our approaches. That's why we need to keep this balance between being global in our initiatives, tailoring our message to different regions, and at the same time, staying true to Revolut's core values.
I think what's unique about Revolut is that our core values, once you get to know them, are universal. Anyone that's part of the company really understands how these core values influence the work that we do.
They are universal indeed, but it's really interesting to see how they play out in different markets. For example, never settle. Yeah, it's one of our core values. For some regions, it's about new technology, growth. And for other regions, it's more about continuous development. That's what we take into consideration while building our employer branding strategy.
Talking about consideration for core values, let's switch sides. For job seekers, what are some key things they should look for when assessing a potential company?
I would advise to look at the values of the company, to learn about company's culture. I believe it's the first thing that a candidate should do. Nowadays, companies really make it easy for candidates. They create so much content that you can go through and understand if you align with the company's values. So take your time, listen to the people who work in the company, look at other content that you can find, and just understand if you can fit in this environment and if you can imagine yourself working there.
Definitely. And as the company grows and more eyes are on Revolut as an employer, the employer branding team obviously is growing to keep pace with that. For you, what's been your approach to leading that team, and how do you keep up with the company's expansion efforts?
Yeah, we are really growing fast. And my approach would be to empower autonomy, but at the same time, to keep this clear vision and clear goal. For sure, I support flexibility. And I think what we really need is to keep learning and adapting to the challenging reality. Another important thing is open communication. I want everyone in the team to be able to openly speak up and share their feedback.
I feel like that open communication is really important to the work that we're doing at Revolut with customers as well, because we listen to customer feedback to adapt our features continuously to improve. From an employer branding perspective, what role does employee or candidate feedback play in shaping recruitment efforts?
Feedback is crucial for us, both from employees and candidates. We listen carefully to Revoluters to make sure that internal culture is reflected in our employer branding initiatives, but we also listen to candidates' feedback to improve any efforts that we do around employer branding. So both types of feedback, they actually guide our content, our events, and also communication strategies so that we can offer the best appealing experience to our current and potential team members.
So let's say someone has seen these employer branding initiatives that you're working on and they think, okay, I can see myself working here. They want to apply. What tips do you have for applicants to promote or to share a positive image of themselves to a potential employer?
So I would recommend, first of all, to look at your LinkedIn profile, to polish it. Second step would be to think about your wins, successes, and to add it to your CV. And the third would be to show it during the interview and to make sure that you focus on your personal achievements and back it up with relevant data and facts.
Show what you've done and what you can do.
Yeah, it's all about your personal branding by the end of the day.
Employer branding, promoting personal branding. I like it. On that note, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Sveta, I want to ask you about how to create and promote an authentic employer brand experience. We'll be right back with more insider views. This episode of the Revolut Insider podcast is brought to you by Revolut Business. Revolut Business is the automated financial platform helping startups, scale-ups, and enterprises accept and make payments globally, exchange money at competitive rates, and manage their spending. To learn more, visit revolut.com/business. And we're back on the Revolut Insider podcast with Head of Employer Branding, Svetlana Kochkina. Hi, Sveta. Welcome back.
Hello again.
Sveta, sometimes on social media, employer branding can often feel, let's say, overly polished or even salesy. We're talking about recruitment marketing in a way. How should a company approach employer branding efforts to stay authentic and real?
Sometimes you really can't avoid employer branding being salesy, but to make it authentic, show genuine stories. Rather than relying on this scripted content, we focus on real experiences, having videos or quotes or social media takeovers, for example, And this gives us a true picture of what it's like to work here at Revolut. So keep it real, highlight your employee value proposition, show your employees' life through values. People like this real stories, real challenges, successes. This builds trust and reflects the honest picture of the company.
Why do you think employee stories work better than, let's say, listing out all the benefits of a company? I mean, your goal is to hire people. That's pretty efficient, a list of benefits.
So it's an easy way. Yeah, of course, you can list all the benefits and that's it. But it's not always so memorable and relatable. People want to imagine themselves working at the company, and these stories, they provide real-life interpretations of the company's culture. They allow candidates to learn about Revolut's environment through all this relatable experience. And when we are sharing the stories, we are fostering the sense of belonging, and benefits alone can't capture that.
You kind of have to put the pieces together to create that whole picture.
Right.
As the employer branding team sits under the talent acquisition department, what's the relationship between employer branding and the recruitment process?
Employer branding and recruitment go hand in hand. We work really close together. Employer branding helps recruitment to promote roles, to create compelling content that speaks to our culture, and also highlight our unique employee value proposition, of course. For example, we develop hiring packs, we outline our benefits of working at Revolut, and with all that, we help candidates to get better experience and to understand what it's like to work at Revolut.
You mentioned these employer value propositions as part of being something that employer branding highlights. What are some questions candidates should ask during interviews to gauge whether a company's culture aligns with their own values?
The simplest, but at the same time, the most powerful question is, what do you personally like about working at the company? It gives this clear understanding of what are the benefits, what is the culture, and if the candidate can fit in.
It's a great tip. As a manager and being the head of the employer branding team, speaking from your own experience hiring for a growing team and conducting interviews, what's a mistake that you see candidates make either on an application or during an interview?
One of the most common mistakes that I can see is a candidate applying to multiple positions. The best approach is to go through the list of the jobs and to choose one that suits you best and where you can imagine yourself making the most impact.
Yeah.
And for the interview, some candidates focus too much on company's benefits, talking about that. I would advise focusing more on what kind of value you can bring to the company and maybe showing it through real examples of how you solved the problem or data that you have from the task.
In your position, you're aware that many people apply to open positions. Less people are interviewed, and ultimately one person gets that job. So what would you say to job seekers out there who don't end up getting the job?
Never give up. The experience that we get when we are rejected is the most helpful experience that we can get ever. Use this feedback to improve and to focus on learning the missing skills. Maybe you are just one skill away from getting that job, but it doesn't mean that you are not good enough. So don't give up and stay motivated.
I love that. I think we kind of need that bit of a boost sometimes when we're looking for a new job. I want to ask you, Sveta, what do you like about working here at Revolut?
There are so many things where I'm working here for like 3.5 years already, but two key things. One is, of course, flexibility, because I'm a mom and I really want to spend as much time as I can with my 7-year-old son. And Revolut gives me this opportunity because most of the time I work from home and I can easily combine work and life. And the second thing is this global aspect of the company. I've relocated several times with Revolut and I always felt really supported in this challenging journey.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have that support, not only with relocating, which moving is a big stress in someone's life, but also in the day-to-day. Like you said, being a parent and having that support to have a flexible schedule is empowering to know that you can do the job well without having to worry about things that might hinder your ability to do a good job.
Yeah, and when I'm speaking to my friends and when I'm telling them about this remote opportunities and everything that we have here at Revolut, they're kind of jealous.
I imagine, yeah, it's a good gig we have here. All right. Well, I just have one final question for you, Sveta. What advice would you have given to yourself when you were just starting out in your career?
Don't be afraid to ask questions. There are no wrong questions. And when you ask good questions, it leads you to your development and to getting higher in the career. Second one is build your network. I think like all the people that I got to know through my career in different companies, they really helped me to learn faster, to grow faster, and to get some opportunities that I would never get without my network.
Yeah.
The third one is don't fear failure. Sometimes our biggest failures lead us to biggest successes.
Yeah.
It's something that we all know, but we tend to forget about it.
Well, this is a great reminder to remember, don't feel failure. It'll lead to bigger, better things.
Yeah.
All right, Sveta, well, thank you so much for your time today. It's really been a privilege to sit down with you and get your insight on employer branding and why visibility is so important in today's job market.
Thanks a lot, Alex. I really enjoyed our talk.
Me too. And for those listening, thank you. And you can add the podcast to your favorites so you don't miss an episode, and follow us on Instagram at Revolut Insider. This has been the Revolut Insider podcast, where we explore all things Revolut from the inside out. Until next time, remember, never settle, because the sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning. Revolut. Change the way you money.